Join me now is Erica Smith. She's a candidate for the United States Senate. She is a current state senator in the great state of North Carolina. Senator Smith, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here. How are you, Cenk?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great. Doing wonderful.
All right. So now you've done a lot of different professions in your life. You're an engineer, you're a teacher,
Yes.
you're a minister, you're a state senator. So quick question, how'd you wind up winning?
Well, I unseated the longest sitting Democrat because he had lost touch with the base that he was serving. Having a diversity of experience, I moved back to a rural part of North Carolina after working for the Boeing Company in Seattle, Washington. I was blessed with the skills to be a community advocate, and as a minister in the community, that also helped with in terms of grassroots leadership. And so at the time, I have to say, former Speaker of the House, Tom Tillis, inspired me because at the time he was Speaker of the House when the Republicans took over in North Carolina, and they led an assault on public education. And it was that assault that led me from the classroom floor and serving on the school board in Northampton County to deciding to throw my hat in the ring and win my primary and then the general election in 2014. And it's been history ever since. I'm a hard worker and has had tremendous success as a state senator.
And now you're running against Tom Tillis, but first you got to get past the primary.
Once again, yes,
that's right.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that primary right now. You're one of the more accomplished people in the race in terms of political career. You're a state senator. But it appears, according to reporting, that the Democratic Party is fishing around for other candidates. Let me start with this. How do you feel about that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me because Black women especially are underrepresented in politics. And so there are tremendous barriers for Black women, but I don't use that as a limitation for my candidacy. I know that I am the most experienced candidate in the race. I've served longer than the other Democratic primary candidate has since he's been out of office. He hasn't served in elected office in 17 years. And I've been serving consistently nonstop for the last 17 years. So I'm excited about the diversity of experience that I bring from high-tech experience in corporate America. And I know that what I gained navigating corporate America and the business acumen that I have been blessed with is what makes me the leading candidate. And the polls are showing that. I'm not surprised that there are other establishment Democrats looking for another candidate, but this is a new day and we're going to have to do things a new way, not only in North Carolina, but in these United States, if we're going to return integrity, humanity, and common sense advocacy to Washington, D.C.
Okay, Senator Smith, the reporting seems to indicate that the National Democratic Party is concerned about your fundraising ability, that you're not rich enough and you don't know enough rich people.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is what they do all across the country, and they're obsessed with money. They think that's the only thing that matters. But isn't that in a sense racist? And so let me explain why I say that. Because African Americans in this country are born with about 10% of the net worth of white families, and by the way, that's a generous number. And so,
yes.
If the Democratic Party on a national level is saying we are going to always pick the richer candidate, by definition, doesn't that discriminate massively against African Americans across the country?
I agree. There is a wealth gap between African Americans and the predominant culture, but that's because of the systemic holdover from racism. First, let me go ahead and dispel what I feel about wealth. We are a democracy. We are not a plutocracy. We see what having this country run by wealthy people, many whom lack the experience. I won't call out any names, but we have someone who has been in business but filed bankruptcy how many times? And
6.
now he's leading the greatest country in the free world. And so there's too much big money in politics. And so these candidates, and that's what's resulted in the failed leadership that we have in Washington, D.C., and in many in our state houses, because money doesn't vote, people do. And I think that at this juncture in our nation's history, we have seen what a plutocracy has done. When we have candidates who are controlled by special interests, they're controlled by dark money. They don't put people first. But when you have a candidate like myself who is governed by principles and putting people first, then we will see the type of leadership that we need to get this nation moving in the right direction.
I would love to see how awkward that Senate caucus room is when you're in there with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is going around running against, trying to make sure progressives don't win these Senate seats all across the country. So, all right, you don't take corporate PAC money.
I don't.
What are some of your other policy positions?
Well, I have a 6-point lesson plan now because it's higher level. And once again, Tom Tillis has inspired me with his failed leadership. I often say, I don't know whether to call him a Disney character. I have to figure out which one, whether it's going to be Flipper the dolphin or if it's going to be Pinocchio, because he backtracks instead of taking a stand. I mean, even as recently as it relates to Trump's border wall, we have lost $80 million in funding for our military installations. And it's a sad reality when we have our sitting senator not stand by the men and women who defend this country. But my 6-point lesson plan is very brief. It includes economic expansion, education equity, equitable healthcare. Everyone should have access to free healthcare. And I have to go on about this because you and I, we go to work, we work hard every day, we pay our taxes so that 435 members of the House will have good insurance. We go to work, we pay our taxes so 100 US senators can have good access to healthcare. So if we go to work every day and we pay our taxes so that they can have good healthcare, why can't they go to work to fight for every American to have access to universal healthcare with prescription drug controls and to make sure that people are not rationing their insulin so that they can put food on the table. We have a lot of work to do as it relates to equal justice, to criminal justice reforms, to make sure that we are not over incarcerating demographics of people. And so I am a big proponent of equal work for equal pay. As a mechanical engineer in corporate America, we need to make sure that we have men and women with pay parity, but not only between gender pay equity, but we also need to look at demographics because African-American women only earn 61 cents on the dollar of a white male. And last but not least, as an engineer, engineers not only study what is, but they also create that which has never been. And so I have a platform of re-engineering policies for progress. We need to look at this so-called 2018 Tax and Jobs Act that resulted in taking money away from the poor to give the wealthy 1% more. In those re-engineering policies, it includes comprehensive immigration reform, as well as comprehensive gun control. And I'm wearing my orange ribbon. I don't think you can see it, but
yeah, we see it.
It's a sad reality, Cenk, when you lose students to gun violence. When at the beginning of a school year, my colleagues, we spend more time with active shooter training than we spend with unwrapping the curriculum so that we can train our students to be successful in life and in career and in college.
Senator Smith, my thesis is that the overall problem is corruption. So whether it's the fossil fuel companies that buy off these US senators and Congress people, or it's the NRA, we have a pledge called tyt.com/never-NRA that if a politician ever takes money from the NRA, you should never vote for them. Because you could be in favor of gun rights, especially in a state like North Carolina, but we gotta know that you're honest and you're doing it because of the voters and not because you took money from the NRA. So what's your take on that? Having been in state politics, et cetera, how much does those campaign donations corrupt politics?
I feel like they really very much corrupt politics, and that's why we have the corrupt legislators that we have in office now. Let me share this with you. Tom Tillis is one of the top recipients of NRA money. Tom Tillis gets $4.5 million from the NRA. My opponent, Cal Cunningham, has an A rating by the NRA, and he also helped to pass pro-friendly gun legislation when he was in one term in the North Carolina Senate. You know what the NRA gets from me? The NRA gets from me, they get gun control. They get common sense proposals like covering red flag laws, universal background checks. That's what the NRA gets from me. And so what they have given me in return is a zero. In my 3 terms as a North Carolina senator, I have received a grade of 0 from the NRA, and I wear that letter grade, I wear that F with pride, because that means that I want to put the lives and the safety of the public ahead of special interest money. My votes are not for sale. I am unbought and I am unbossed. That's why I have a lot of concern with the powers that be in the establishment sending a lot of money in to get candidates who are not progressive to represent us. We are the big tent party. We are the party of progress. We are the party of inclusion, and we need to start acting like it. And so I am going to fight, and I need everyone else to join us in this fight. It's a lot of grassroots organizations that have come out to support me, and I'm really happy about that. But it's going to take tons of money. They've placed, the NSRC has placed these billboards showing me with members of the squad. They've started placing them all over North Carolina, and I don't know what their strategy is, but if I'm too liberal because I listen to constituents and place people first, if I'm too liberal because I refuse to accept special interest money, and especially from the NRA, if I'm too liberal because I have an A rating in terms of the environment, I've been Senator of the Year for 2 consecutive sessions by the environmental advocacy groups. And I wear that with pride because I'm for a brighter future for these United States, for fellow North Carolinians, and for this nation as a whole.
All right, I love it. EricaForUs.com is the website. And we will have the links down below to donate and to volunteer. If you don't take corporate PAC money, you need small dollar donations, you need volunteers.
You need tons of them, yes.
Yes, so let's get out there and make that happen. Don't let Chuck Schumer pick these corporate guys with A ratings from the NRA, allies of the NRA. What's the point of getting them in the US Senate if they're just gonna agree with Republicans? So Erica Smith, state senator, I love that you went old school on unbought and unbossed.
Unbought, Shirley Chisholm, unbought and unbossed. Our votes are not for sale. Thank you so much. Glad to join you tonight.
Thank you, Erica Smith. We appreciate it. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.